What's up, man? Can
Hey,
you hear
what's
me?
going? Yeah, can you hear me?
I can't hear you. Hold on.
Yeah.
I think it's because I'm using my mic.
Okay. No,
One sec. Can
no worries.
you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? No. Hmm.
All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay,
What's
cool.
up, man?
Not too much. Good morning.
Good morning, man. Where are you?
I am in Philadelphia. How about
You're in
you?
Philadelphia. I am in Fairfield, Connecticut. It's funny when you spoke at the speaker school. I was in the back of the room, and like I realized like everyone was gonna like probably come flock you.
Sure.
So like I think I was sitting there in the back of the room just messaging you on LinkedIn, and I was like, I'll connect with them afterwards,
Yeah.
which worked out obviously. But that's funny because like the one thing that like my family's from Philly also. Like, they live mainline. My sister lives in Wynwood. My my mom grew up over on um Cottman Avenue off of Roosevelt Boulevard,
Oh, yeah.
and then both my parents ended up going to Temple, so
Oh, cool.
that's how we met. And then now they're in like Bryn Mawr, Balkenwood kind of area, but
Yeah.
big Philly guy, so it's like it
Yeah.
was pretty cool like hearing you talk about Philly and whatnot.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are you like all Philly sports fan?
Oh yeah, dude, I'm a diehard Eagles fan. I'm going to see the Eagles in Dallas on the 10th,
Oh, nice.
which I'm pumped about.
Yeah.
Um, Flyers, I mean, Phillies kind of let me down.
Yeah.
You know, it's always next year. But yeah, we're big Philly fans.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I mean the Eagles are it feels like last year. Like Phillies just couldn't get it done. Now all the hope is in the Eagles. Hopefully they can do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And and the Sixers are like they've got like the Phillies vibes right now. They're just Harden being gone. I feel like everyone's actually having fun and they feel like they're playing really loose with each other.
Yeah, that was terrible. Like, but I love Embiid. It's funny because I went to school, University of Massachusetts,
Okay.
so I'm kind of a Celtics fan, which
Okay.
is kind of frowned upon.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like I'm a big Celtics fan, but I love basketball. I'm a basketball guy kind of. So I love talent. I like Embiid, what he did
Yeah.
MVP season, but he might need a little help. I don't know if he's gonna match up well against the C's, man.
Yeah, we'll see. We just beat the Celtics what 2 nights ago?
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah. So, yeah, what I just learned last night that Bryce Young was born in Wynwood.
Really?
Yeah. They said they mentioned it on Thursday Night Football. I was like, I had no idea he's from Philadelphia. Apparently he was born here and then I don't know how old he was when he moved to California, but yeah, he like went to high school in California. But they said he was born at Lankenau Hospital, which is like Wynwood.
Right there, yeah. That's wild.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that great of a game last night, but I mean,
Yeah. I was playing the Bears defense on my fantasy team against the Panthers, so I was happy. I was rooting for him to not do well.
nice. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I'm in 4 leagues. It's just like ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like it's so hard keeping up with. How's India?
I'm going there November 29th. Or no,
Oh, oh,
November tw
I thought you were in India.
No, I'm going yeah, I'm going there. I booked it like a couple months ago, and then I'm going there November 26th until December 3rd. So I'm excited. I have to like that's on my to-do list this weekend is like book because I have hotels for the first 3 nights,
Mm,
but I think I'm going to be there for like 6 nights total. So I need to figure out the rest of the 3 nights and what I'm going to do and stuff.
yeah. So what are you like? What are you doing out there? You're speaking at a. You're speaking. I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's a speaking engagement. I'm speaking at a global like corporate real estate nonprofit. So
Okay.
it's just like the India chapter conference, and they have chapters like all over the place. So just like a speaking engagement, as if I were like to go to New York and do a speaking engagement, or DC or whatever.
Yeah, I
Just
mean, you're obviously speaking English.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You're not speaking Hindi out there yet.
yeah,
It's funny because one thing I messaged you. I was like, yeah, my dad's Indian.
yeah.
Uh,
Mm,
he's from in Dehradun in India. Um, and then like I have family like throughout India. So like my dad's whole side of the family stayed in India. He was the only one who came to Philly. And
okay.
then my mom's whole side of the family was Persian.
Okay.
Became they immigrated. The whole family immigrated to the United States and settled in Philly. So that's
Okay.
kind of like how like my family's like met. That's how my parents met, and
Yeah.
that's why Philly I consider home. I was raised here in Connecticut,
Okay.
in like Upper Fairfield County, and it's town called New Fairfield, and now I live on the coast in Fairfield. Are you familiar with Connecticut?
I like not very. I just know it's like up there, like above New York.
Yeah,
I have
far
I
for the
yeah, I spoke is Sacred Heart
yeah.
University.
Sacred Heart is in the town that I live in.
So I've spoken at Sacred Heart before.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sacred Heart is 5 minutes from where I am right now.
Okay, nice.
So yeah, no, that's pretty cool, man.
And then Fairfield is right there as well, right? The university.
Yeah, Fairfield's they're rivals essentially
Yeah,
across.
yeah.
So they're like about 5 miles apart from each other. Um, I think Fairfield's nicer,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
so it's all those thing our kids. But
Yeah.
Fairfield's Jesuit. Fairfield is Jesuit. But it's like a cool culture. I mean, it's kind of funny because like I went to like a large like school. There's thousands of students, and
Okay.
like I'm in this college town. I'm like, this isn't a college town. Like, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
It's like so different. Um, where did you go to school?
I went to Penn State, so
Oh yeah, so it's the same thing for you, man.
yeah. So yeah. Were you at UMass Amherst?
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah. How many students go there?
I think there's like 25,000. I think Penn State's bigger. Uh,
Okay.
I think it was around like 22 to 25,000,
Okay.
and I think that's like the entire school, not like undergrads, graduates, everything. But
Gotcha.
no, it's Amherst is the type of town where there's five other colleges: Smith, Hampshire, Amherst, and I believe there's one other one. I think it's like Holyoke, maybe. Um,
Okay.
so it's like there's five colleges in a very small space.
Okay.
So like winter break, summers, it's like crickets. It's just
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
the local townies kind of just running around. There are times where I would stay like during summer winter break, and like it was just like desolate, man. Like it's kind of crazy how like such a monumental shift of just like it being so like populated and lively, and the
Hmm.
noise and this, even just like at night you hear laughing, you hear people running, and then like it's just peaceful and quiet and a bit,
Yeah.
it's like so crazy. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
It's
sure Penn State's like that too.
yeah, definitely. I mean, very vibrant during the school year, and like the whole town is just Penn State. So we never used to see, I always used to joke and be like, oh, I saw real people today, like people who weren't students.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
just so rare. Um, yeah, I loved it though. I thought it was great. One sec, I got a message that my computer is running out of disk space. So I'm just gonna move some files into a external hard drive here because I don't want it to like cut out halfway through and be like, we can't store your story.
Oh,
Um, so one sec.
yeah, no worries.
Um,
You spoke to my guy Tommy Ooze, huh?
yeah, he's cool. He's super ambitious.
Yeah, he
I
is.
I feel like he knows what he wants to do with his speaking, and he seems like the type of person that'll do the work to make it happen. As I guess everyone who was there, like that's why they're at like a speaker school. They're trying to like get out there and grow, which I think
Yeah.
is really cool. Like I'm inspired by that.
It's funny when I was entering that arena with Brandon, and Brandon, like I know Brandon's best friend Rob, and I know Rob was doing it, and I had wanted to do it. A lot of it was fear, where I just was like putting it off, putting it off. I mean, most of it was fear.
Sure.
Um, and like the first thing, when he asked me about Chicago, I was kind of like, I've never been to Chicago, you know,
Okay.
and I've
Yeah.
always wanted to go to Chicago.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, like at the very least, I'm gonna get a trip to Chicago. You know,
Uh-huh.
like if this is for me, if this isn't for me, I'm gonna be able to travel to Chicago. I'm
Yeah.
gonna I'm gonna be able to expose myself to the public speaking space. I didn't really know what my intention was. I did have plans in my head in regards to like starting a business and doing what I'm trying to do. And I knew like just adding speaking to my arsenal of weapons was just value.
Yeah.
Um, so, when I went into that room and I started hearing Brandon and Carl and Katie Shea was over there also. She was the third partner in the Chicago Speaker School. And
Okay.
she, like, when they started saying things like, like facts tell, stories sell, and when they started saying, like there's a lot of value in your story, but that's really what it came down to. And I kind of sat in that room for a little bit and was like, I kind of have a crazy story, and like in my story, like, well, to me, sometimes it can bring me lots of shame and like guilt and whatnot. To other people, they might be feeling that same way or done similar things that I've done or or maybe on the down that path. And that's where I can make an impact,
Hmm.
and that's where I kind of just took the training wheels off and was just like, you know what? There's 12 people in this room. I may never see these people ever in my life again.
Hmm.
You know, like I was thinking kind of like that dark way, but that's what kind of allowed me to kind of break out of the fear. It's kind of like the one of those situations where it's like I'm never gonna see these people again, like I like whatever, like if you go to like a wedding where nobody,
Yeah, yeah.
and you're a plus one and you're like whatever, like, and I kind of took that mentality, and it was very liberating in a sense where like I was able to just be completely transparent with my story. And
Yeah.
I shared parts of my life, like when I was like 13, me and my sister found out we were adopted, and that really changed the trajectory of like both my life and her life
Hmm.
in regards to like the path that we were on and the path that ensued, where like for me, like I kind of um rebelled at the very least. I mean that's probably being modest. A rebel. I was totally a rebel without a cause for like quite a long time there, just be like self-destructive decisions. Um, and like that a lot of people could resonate with.
Hmm.
Like my story's kind of like morbid in a sense. There is tremendous loss in my story. My mother passing away, my best friend, who ended up um committing suicide. Those are huge things that impacted me that I kind of bottled up and use it to self-destruct rather than actually facing them and healing through them.
Hmm.
So for me, you know when I shared those stories in that room in Chicago, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if at this point, having not dealt with those kind of things, you put yourself in the space where like you beat yourself up. Your inner monologue is negative.
Hmm.
When that's the case, you don't think there's any worth in those stories. But I was happy to see that people came up to me afterwards and were like, that was great, that was real. And like, don't get me wrong, like the actual telling of the stories needs some work. you
Hmm.
know it was my first time up there, and there's a lot of things I would change differently, but the content, I realized there was value in it.
Yeah.
And that's what encouraged me to do New York and meet you, obviously.
Yeah.
And New York was just a different experience. Like the cool thing about New York was like I'm familiar with New York too.
Hmm.
Like that's a that was pretty cool, where I wasn't like, oh, like I want to go see this, I want to go see this. I was able to really just absorb everything, focus on the actual school,
Hmm.
um, rather than the distractions of being in a new city and like, oh, I want to go see the Bean, and like, like I really want to see the Riverwalk. I didn't
Yeah.
know about that in New York because I'd been to New York, and like I mean, I've lived an hour out of New York for my entire life. It's kind
Yeah.
of done that. So that was super cool. Plus, seeing the people, seeing the growth of the people around me was awesome. Like my Daniel Knight, just from where I saw him. I mean, he did every single speaker school of Brennan's, and
Hmm.
I only saw him in two.
Yeah.
So just the improvement I saw from um, Chicago to New York, was just ridiculous. And
Hmm.
it was just cool to like a lot of the things that I changed in my life, it's the people, places, and things,
Hmm.
changing the people I hang out with, the places I go, and just, just my daily habits, and in doing so, I've been gifted with just meeting so many amazing people who I wouldn't have been, had I still been making terrible decisions that I was in, I say my previous life, but
Hmm.
it wasn't too long ago.
Yeah. I'm curious, how old are you now?
I'm 37.
Okay, cool. I'm
Yeah.
32.
Okay, yeah, a lot of it's funny. I tell people my age, and they're like, "Really?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I was immature for like 10 years down there." So
Yeah.
it's like you guys just think I was still younger, but like I take it as a compliment. Like it's yeah, it's kind of funny. It's like there's no timetable on when you find yourself. There's no timetable on when like that's God's calendar. Not
Yeah.
mine.
That's
Um, and that's like that's the thing also. It's like when you constantly living in the past, you comparing yourself to where other people are when they're your age or at this stage in their life, and you get into that mindset where you think you should be someplace or at a point in your life where you're not yet, and it's okay. you,
yeah, yeah.
like it's like you can't change it.
Hmm.
Like, so for me, it's like kind of accepting that also was like a huge part, because everything that already happened is like has gotten to me where I am today. you know
Hmm.
and I'm in a really I've never been happier.
Yeah. There's and sorry, I just have to delete the files now. They moved over and now I have to delete them. Um, I think my project taught me a lot about that, like how we are, like we're all on, it's all our own individual path. And if we start comparing ourselves, then um, we don't need to worry about like, there's nothing, we don't need to compare ourselves to this or that. 'Cause then that's like what makes us feel insecure and whatnot. And if we're just trying to be the best of who we're supposed to be, then we're like good to go. I feel like it's so helpful. I'm good by the way on those files now, so I won't have to do that again. Um,
It's
the I have like, so I used a Mac. My Mac is like 10 years old, and I got it from the company that laid me off, and because they had like a program where you could buy back the
mhm.
Mac because they were like laying all these people off. They didn't need a bunch of Macs. So I still have like my work serial like tracking number taped onto the bottom of this computer. Um, and I don't know, like if you look at the storage of my Mac, do you have a Mac at all?
I used to, I don't,
Okay.
but I know it works. I have like Mac products. I have like iPhone. I have
Okay.
a MacBook Pro, or not a MacBook Pro, a
Like iPad or
iPad Pro. Yeah, I use
yeah.
the iPad Pro with the keyboard.
Oh
uh,
yeah, yeah.
but
Yeah.
I have like a ThinkPad right now.
Oh, I see. So yeah, I just have like the storage is like 80% of my storage is full from a category called other. And I'm like, how do you get rid of the other stuff? I don't know how to do it. So I have an external hard drive that every week I move videos onto that. And I'm like,
Uh,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
probably like you'd have to, like, that company IT can only move it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, all right, one of these days I'll get it moved. It's all like what like the caching files and stuff. But
Yeah.
but yeah, but I've felt that way too with my story. Like a lot of my friends are married with kids, and especially when I was like 30, living at my parents' house in COVID because I couldn't afford to move out, and um like all my friends were married. They were like starting to work on kids. They definitely had their houses at that point, and I was like, damn, what am I doing with my life? Like I can't even afford to move out of my parents' house. But then I was like, if I had their lives, would I be happy? And I was like, absolutely not. I'd be in a 9 to 5 job with like a stable house and like all these different anchors. One of the things I love most about my life now is I'm so free. Like if I wanted to move to Seattle tomorrow, I could do that. Like I just
Yeah.
need people to meet, and I know like, and that freedom and flexibility is something I highly value.
Well, I forgot who said it, but they said comparison is the thief of all joy.
Yeah.
Um, and that resonates with me, when you yeah, when you look at because a lot of the people who I think social media has a huge, huge, huge role in it, where people only post the joy in their life. They don't
Hmm.
struggle. They don't talk about um the obstacles they had to jump over together. I mean, now you see people do it kind of, but then it's like followed by posts of, them like in Cabo. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
so but like even just like it's so easy now to compare yourself to other people, and especially during COVID, man, when you were in your house and um people were like essentially breaking rules, and then they were partying and doing their thing, and
Hmm.
or they were like but I also look at it where um during COVID there was a lot of opportunity that I squandered because I did have the time. you
Hmm.
know there's I think that now we're seeing a lot of people who did capitalize on that time,
Sure.
the fruits of their labors. And fair enough. Good for them. You
Hmm.
know, they made the rightful use of their time, and I can't like resent them or like it doesn't make sense to commit that like they did the work when they had the time.
Yeah.
And so more often than not, people are like, well, I just don't have time. I just don't have time. And there was about a year that you did,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
year that you did,
Yeah.
like what did you do with that year? And
Hmm.
I can speak for myself is I definitely didn't make proper use of that time. For me, I was still not like, just not at the mindset. My mindset wasn't where it should be. And I squandered that time. And, if I could have it back, which I can't,
Hmm.
um, probably would have done it a little differently.
Sure.
Now, it's all about the present, for me. It's like what I have now, the most efficient use of my time, and just honestly just having respect for my own time.
Hmm.
So it's funny, like like a lot of the times, either because I also work full-time, work sales, I work a sales job, and
Hmm.
and you know when you're doing that, that leaves very limited time for me to work on my own venture.
Sure.
I have my 2 days off, and then I have my evenings.
Yeah.
So it's that time is super valuable to me.
Hmm.
And, you know, having that respect for your own time, I think, is just a game changer because you think twice about the choices you make. You think twice about the people you choose to share that time with.
Yeah.
Oh, and at the end of the day, you might not burn bridges, but there may be people that you love or you care about or like are fun.
Hmm.
But it's like, are they adding value to that time?
Right.
And that's something where I've gotten better at doing, like saying no.
Yeah.
And like, no, I think I can make better use of that time, whether it's, you know, reading, sometimes it's just reading a book that like will provide me with the tools for me to be successful.
Yeah.
Other times it's getting on a call with you know,
Hmm.
like this is good use of my time.
Sure.
Um, and because I want to surround myself with people with the same mentality.
Hmm.
You are the people you hang out with, you're the company you keep. I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah.
And your energy radiates, like anybody who says like, oh, like I should, like I know I shouldn't be hanging out with this person, then why are you?
Right.
At this
Yeah.
point, you're making a choice,
Hmm.
like, and like that, and it's like, but at the same token, I've been there, where
Hmm.
I chose the instant gratification of experience of a person over, like, where's their opportunity to grow in a relationship or an experience,
Sure.
and where it may not be instant gratification, like, sitting there, like, reading a book or taking a online course or seminar isn't fun,
Hmm.
but will it pay dividends long term? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Was it, it sounds like 13 years old was that pivotal moment, like a first turning point for you when you
Yeah.
are you is are you and your sister adopted from the same family?
Okay, so we were adopted from separate families. Me and she's 14 months older than me.
Mhm.
She was we're both Indian. We're actually both, like, born in India, and
Oh, no.
she um she was left, I believe, at a church, and my mother at the time, my mother was unable to bear children,
Mhm.
and so, like, when they were in India visiting family, I like to joke around. I was like, I guess they were baby shopping too.
Yeah.
And and they found my sister and fell in love with her, and brought her home, and then about a year later they went over, they want another child. I was actually, the thing that I grappled most with this situation was finding out on our own, um and thinking that we weren't loved, because how could we be loved if we were kept a secret?
Hmm.
um but now in hindsight, when I look at, like, my situation was very different than my sister's. I was left at a hospital by my natural parents. I was very sick. I was malnourished. I was rejecting lactose. I was really not slated for much of to live. I was not really slated to live. That was not in the cards. Um, and when my parents found me, the medicine that I needed was back in the United States, and I had maybe like a week, maybe a week and a half. They ended up flying back to the United States, securing the medication that I needed, flying back, treating me, saving my life, and then bringing me back home, to the United States. And like, when you break down that story, um, yeah, how could I say I wasn't wanted? You know, I mean, they saved my life, but it was really just the youth of being 13, I would say. And, you know, my immediate reaction, and which has kind of been the pattern following that, was anger. I was angry. I was angry that I was lied to. I was angry that, um, like, if we knew, like, our entire family knew. So it felt like, like one big conspiracy that we were left out of, which was a major, I mean, it's a major part of who I am.
Hmm.
Um, so for me, it was very, I kind of got the effort mentality.
Yeah.
And and I feel like, when you're, for me, when at that age of 13, I was transitioning from, like, I had just transitioned from going to a Jewish day school. My mother's side of the family is Persian Jewish. I was in Jewish day school from pre-kindergarten to fifth grade. I was just transitioning into public school.
Hmm.
I mean, I never ever want to, like, whatever. I'll just say it. Like, I was a brown guy in a old white town, white town.
Sure.
And whether that had, like, that had definitely played a role now, if I think in hindsight, where it's like I didn't really have an identity, like, and now I'm just finding this out, like, I don't like I'm thrown through a loop. So that's when I think that was a moment where I didn't fit in. I felt like I didn't fit in, and I really wanted to find acceptance. And I gravitated towards the wrong people. I gravitated towards people who would party. I gravitated towards, um, don't get me wrong. Like, I started playing football because jocks partied, and
Hmm.
at that point, like, that kind of snowballed. Where I spent this time always just trying to fit in, and be someone who I'm not, you know, where, but along the way I paid dearly for it, where um when you try to fit into a group but you don't, then you also will become their scapegoat,
Mm,
you know, because you are not in that group. You are there because you might offer something at a time, or you might be funny, or, but like, in hindsight, I was probably the brunt of a lot of jokes,
mm,
In hindsight, I probably, I was never really accepted into these groups, but, like they knew I wanted to be, and that's also like the maturity of like that age group, on into high school. But I felt like even as I grew as an adult, similar circumstances. But now these are adult situations
yeah.
where, and adult situations have adult consequences. So like, much of my story is painted with alcoholism. Just just that was a huge demon of mine, where like, I would drink because I didn't know who I was. I didn't want to feel anything. So I would suppress those emotions.
Hmm.
So I did damage a lot of relationships. And I certainly put myself, I certainly squandered opportunities that I wish I could get back.
Mm,
Um, but now, I mean, I did wish I get back at this point in my life. It's made me who I am,
hmm.
just even like, I starting my business. Like my business was a um tribute to my past self. In this past life, I did a lot of taking, I did a lot of damage. I wasn't, I was extremely selfish. And this next chapter of my life, I really want to commit to giving, to
Hmm.
be selfless, to not needing to be the center of attention, to working towards something that's bigger. So what better way for me to do that than to partner with charitable foundations and help them raise money and help them raise awareness in the community
Hmm.
about their causes, so that you know through our partnership I'll be able to touch and give back so much to so many different people.
Hmm.
Even then, I could raise $100 million for charitable foundations. I would still not think that I've paid my debt back to society, or even like, because I don't think you can monetize the damage that you do in a relationship that is, that holds like value, like just such huge sentimental value,
Hmm.
but through my actions now, these relationships that were impacted by my poor choices will improve and
Yeah.
have improving, so I'm really like excited about being able to just like um work in the community, man, just work in the community, put other, like put look at the larger picture and see like what kind of change I can affect long term.
Yeah. What's if you so like that 13, that experience sounds like it kind of hardened you in a way, and then you went down this path. What was the like pivotal moment that then softened you into your current phase? And like when did that occur?
Fairly recently, fairly recently. We talked about how, after I found after that happened, I my relationship with my parents was very fraught. My Especially with my father. My mom was a sweetheart. I feel like if I reflect back, I think it was really my dad's decision and not be open about it, more so than hers. But like when she passed away, that's kind of when I started to. My mom passed away in 2013, from leukemia. That's when I kind of realized that, all right, she's gone. Now it's just me, my sister, and my dad, and that's a very different dynamic. My father is a old school, Indian guy. Very deliberate in his actions and very stubborn and very don't get me wrong, the man is came from India, came, got his PhD by the age of 20, and established himself, with a corporation, and built a beautiful life for us from nothing. So, like, God bless him for that. But when it came to relationships, emotional availability, I wouldn't say that was his strongest suit. Um, so then there's like, so like that riff kind of just snowballed into like me just trying to chart my own path, and just, I worked in restaurants for a very long time, which wasn't very ideal, for like, especially someone who was drinking and doing,
Hmm.
being in that party atmosphere wasn't really an ideal. So, and I did that for like 15 years. And then it was like about 2 years or 15, it's been 15 months, man, um, so like when towards the towards the end of the summer, at the end of the spring, May, it was May 2022. Like I had kind of, I was drinking a lot.
Hmm.
I got diagnosed with pancreatitis. Just, this was like, at the time I was working at this really upscale restaurant in Norwalk, Connecticut, or in Rowayton, Connecticut, um and I was working there, and it was like super, it was a fun atmosphere. There's a lot of like the people were amazing, but it wasn't it was a toxic atmosphere for me, for sure.
Hmm.
Um, and like a lot of things kind of snowballed, where like, I ended up losing that job. I ended up getting that diagnosis. I ended up crashing my car. So kind of like, they say bad things happen in threes.
Sure.
At that juncture, man, I kind of sat there, every relationship around me was kind of crumbling. People were just, um, I don't really think people were angry with me. I mean, some people might have been angry with me, but I think they were just like felt helpless and powerless, and just were just sad.
Hmm.
And at that juncture, I knew that I'd never like really faced any like mortal physical consequence in my life, where my health was threatened. And that was a tremendous thing, man, where, doctors are telling you like, hey man, like, you keep living this way, I don't know what's gonna happen. And that, I think, you ever see that reel when they're like, when you talk to, a man whose time is limited, the only thing he wants is more time,
Hmm.
um, something of that nature.
Yeah.
It's kind of that moment where it's like, okay, so I definitely, like, the time changes now, So that was my eye-opening moment where, I decided like I need to start putting myself in a position where I need to get sober, uh,
Hmm.
and I need to, um, but like not just. I mean, there had been times in the past where I tried to,
Hmm.
but I realized that, the only thing that's going to really maintain it is having a purpose behind it. Not you can't make um huge changes if it's just consequence driven, or if it's simply because you want to get something back. I'll do this now because I want them to be back in my life. I'll
Hmm.
get this now because, like, I want that car, or I want that house. There needs to be a purpose, I feel,
Yeah.
behind your life, frankly, uh,
Hmm.
in order for it to be true, long, sustained change and growth.
Yeah.
Because money and material objects, and even like relationships, can only motivate you so far.
Hmm.
But plenty of people who, you know either like have that trophy wife and drive that Lambo and live in that mansion, who are miserable. um in fact, like, I see it all the time, man. Like, I'm blessed to work in a place where there is a lot of wealth. And I see, a lot of people who have all the material things, but when it comes to, you know maybe it's a purpose, maybe it's something else. And when they're missing a piece, that's really the key to their happiness,
Hmm.
which is disappointing, because it kind of tells you that, like, gratitude is a huge part of, like, keeping me in check and keeping me focused on my purpose. Like, if I wasn't grateful for my journey, then like, then I'll constantly be doing what we were talking about before,
Hmm.
comparing. you
Hmm.
know and if comparison is a thief of joy, I need to be grateful for what I have, because I feel like that's the polar opposite of that.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that. I feel like that's been one of the greatest values I've gotten out of this project is that sense of gratitude, um, and realizing like, yeah, I don't know. I just am talking to people every day whose lives are like different than mine in certain ways. And uh, a lot of times I can be like, wow, I'm so lucky I have this, or I'm so lucky I have that. I think there's a lot of people who could go through my path too and like think about like, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that, or whatever. I don't know, for whatever reason, I've always just found like gratitude and possibility. But um, yeah, it's such, I don't know, I think too, like I studied finance, so I came from that mindset. And it's like for whatever reason, it's like we go towards flashy things, right? Like we're like animals, like little birds that want to like look towards the flashy thing. And it's like we think the idea of success is like money and cars and whatever. And I feel like so many people are like, hey, it doesn't buy happiness, it doesn't do this. And we're like, yeah, cool, but you don't know because I'm
Yeah,
not there.
yeah.
But and then they get there. So I don't know. My project was such a nice, like humbling thing for me. It's consistently humbling because I say like it's hard to, and I definitely have times where like I'm like no one helped me. Like no one would take a chance on me. Like in speaking, you want like a bureau to pay attention to you. They don't pay attention to you. And then sometimes I'll get caught in that, and then I'll like pull myself out of it and be like, okay, I've had so much help. Like I've had friends who hosted me. I've had people who made introductions for me. Um, but yeah, I found a lot of value in like those more wholesome parts of life, and all the other like flashy stuff kind of like stripped away. And I feel like I learned that in my late 20s. And I'm like, man, that's great. I learned it at such a young age. And I feel like I'll take that with me now. And you were talking too, like a lot of people would like, I think we never really figure out who we are in life. I think it's like that's just part of the journey of life is like getting to know ourselves as much as we can. I talked to a dude who was like 62 years old, and he was like, I really just found out who I was. And I was like, at what age? He's like, probably like 5 years ago. And I was like,
Yeah.
man, that's so crazy. Like we should start telling kids this because they think they need to know who they are by 20. And then if they're not sure about themselves, that they're a mistake and they're not as good as the people around them. And I'm like, I always say the biggest thing I've learned from my project is no one really knows what they're doing with their lives. Everyone's just doing the best they can with the resources they have.
Yeah. And I think you actually right. Like Kobe Bryant, our boy from Lower Merion.
Yeah, yeah.
What did he say? He said, it's not the destination, it's the journey.
Hmm.
Um, when you're constantly keeping your eye on this destination, you're not going to enjoy like the path that comes with it. And I think that's what I've come to realize over this span of growth, where I wasn't appreciative of the good things, and I wasn't appreciative of the bad thing, but I also wasn't appreciative of the bad things, because like a lot of the times it's the bad things, like it's the bad things that cause the most dramatic changes. The good things you like, you use to gas up your ego and tell yourself that you deserve it.
Hmm.
You, do you though? You know what
Hmm.
I mean? No, like
Yeah.
that's a gift, hopefully, of hard work. That's a
Hmm.
gift of staying consistent. That's a gift. Like things are earned, and when they're given, then yeah, you're that man with all the toys that he wants. But does he really have true happiness? I
Hmm.
think that's something for me that I'm learning. It's like now, like like there's so much fear involved, like in like my previous life, so much fear, fear of like, oh, like what are they gonna think if I do this, or like fear of like what if I fail, or fear of just like um really other people's opinions, honestly.
Hmm.
Yeah, like fear of how it's gonna be received, fear of judgment, man, um and when you operate in that way, man, it's you create your own mental prison, I think.
Yeah.
Like you trap yourself.
Yeah.
It's
It's yeah, interesting. It's like counterproductive too.
it's it's but it's as a result of like what you were saying before, where it's like you're like, I don't know where we got in this place where like, like of comparison, or thinking that we need to be someplace, and we got in that place because people tell us that we do.
Hmm.
Project their own fears onto us,
Yeah.
and when they're doing that, it's like we believe them,
Yeah.
like we believe our parents when we're like, I don't know if that's a good idea. Yeah, they're parents and we're supposed to like love them and trust them, and they have our best interests in heart, but they're also projecting their own fears.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the people who love you the most who are gonna plant those second thoughts. My dad is one of those people, you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
now
I feel it.
he has an Instagram account and he follows me. You know,
Hmm.
and he's like these like old man comments, and I'm like, oh, dude, you're great.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you see, it's hilarious. I like because one day it just popped up, and I was like, is that my dad? Like, is this?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have a picture, he doesn't have a
Um,
bio. It's just this like ghost follower with his name.
yeah.
That's definitely happening.
Zero posts. Yeah.
Zero
Uh,
posts.
who would you say, like, we talk about like you had that fear of like other people's opinions and stuff. At this stage of your life, whose opinions matter to you?
People who've done it, people who have done what I want to do.
Mm. And what is it that you want to do?
Well, with the fundraising aspect, I have a fundraising mentor, someone who I knows how to like engage community, somebody who knows how to raise funds, structures, build up event planning. I have a mentor for that. Brandon has been tremendous in that um, he just has this energy. And it's funny because like when I do Zooms with Brandon, like we're very different. Brandon, I think he's way more analytical, and um, I think he's a master in his craft. But he's someone I look up to because he's doing what I want to do in the business aspect.
Mm.
You know, I have another friend in regards to social media. Like I like how he does and how he does his outreach. It's not so much that their opinion matters
Hmm.
as much as I value their feedback.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the thing. Like most people's, I'm at a point now where it's like I don't really care what people think of me
Hmm.
as long as I'm making the next best choice for just like when it comes to everything to who I am. As
Yeah.
long as I'm being honest with myself, it doesn't matter what other people think about me.
Yeah.
But it's the feedback that matters. Yeah. There's people's feedback that I do value a lot. Carl, Carl has been great, just the way Carl is, man, unapologetically himself. Like that's really like what I love to surround myself with, just like real people who like aren't, doing it for they're not doing it to like for the glory as much,
Hmm.
because it's fulfilling what their purpose is.
Right.
So purpose-driven people are the people I gravitate towards to the most, and you could tell, man, you could tell right away. You know,
Hmm.
I think, we choose not to sometimes like see someone or see a situation for what it is. Um, like, and I attribute like my years of working in a restaurant where like I've gotten pretty good at like reading people. I've gotten
Hmm.
at like um knowing, who's full of it and who's not. Um and like as I was able to like kind of frankly like elevate myself when it comes to like working um at higher end places. I have a good feel for like who did it the right way and who didn't.
Hmm.
You know? And I'm sure there's some people I'm wrong about. Like I'm not perfect either, but
Sure.
like it comes back down to like those are the people where I'm like there's value in spending time with them. There's value of even like having them sit in my office for 10 minutes and just talking about their children, or
Hmm.
about their weekend,
Yeah.
building those relationships because, the most valuable relationships that I have and the people who I find are most willing to help you
Yeah.
grow the business or, are the ones where their children's names, their
Hmm.
restaurant, that their wife is expecting a child, the baby shower is next weekend.
Yeah.
Um, like these things are important to know because so often than not, people just come right at you with just like, how can you help me in business? And
Sure.
that's cool, but like, but like then you limit that relationship to being strictly transactional,
Hmm.
when you take that approach, when you not only care about the person, the business, but also the person, I think they're more willing to just like really be candid with you,
Hmm.
like like I need people to tell me, hey, I don't think you're doing this the right way. This is what I did when I was doing this. And because when it's strictly transactional, they're not going to be honest with their criticism. And the
Hmm.
only way for me to not make the same mistakes other people have made is for them to be very transparent with their experiences.
Yeah.
um so like um I think that's also I get that from sales, like like working in sales, like people are more likely to give you their money and trust you if you ask like, so like, yeah, how you have kids, oh what are their names, oh,
Hmm.
like sports, are they going to school, like like that's like you need to invest in the person, they'll invest in you.
Yeah.
um that's something that I think has um revolutionized sales in a sense. I think the sales a lot now is like super relationship based.
Hmm.
A lot about it's like, I mean, there's the reason they say it's, network, your network is your net worth, man. Like it's the people and it's what you know about them and the relationships that you have. It's very relationship um driven,
Yeah.
frankly.
Yeah. I agree with that. So what is your business now? Like,
So
yeah.
right, well, what I do is I partner with 501(c)s,
Okay.
um, and I raise money for them.
Okay.
They pay me to raise money for them. I, currently I'm working on a project with the Nest Egg Foundation. The Nest Egg Foundation is, um, it's the Willow Grant. That's my friends, their grant.
Okay.
But I mean, I just released it. I mean, I haven't released it yet, but I'll just tell you, it's um, I'm working with Ashley and Carlos Verdon. They have a fund called the Willow Grant. It's under the Nest Egg Foundation, which is based in Westport, Connecticut. And what we're doing is trying to raise awareness on um, IVF fertilization accessibility.
Hmm.
IVF fertilization is not covered under any health insurance, and
Hmm.
their grant does is provide grants to young couples who have been struggling to start a family,
Hmm.
for in vitro. So what we're going to be doing is hosting a gala in September. And throughout this year, I'm throwing a series of events to increase awareness and to invite um, people in the local community in Greenwich, Connecticut, who have a voice in it. Local OBGYNs, the YWCA, Greenwich Moms, cultivating these, because I think it's a cause that's not really talked about. It's talked about behind closed doors. But change doesn't happen behind closed doors. Change happens when people are willing to talk and bring it to the forefront and not be coy about how much it means to them or that they've been through it, and be open with their stories like I was in Chicago, you
Hmm.
know? Um, and that's my first project, and I'm super excited for it. I'm super hyper aware of what I don't know.
Hmm.
Uh, Um, and I've been like very hungry to connect with people um in that community in that space, but also in, just like, hey, like, how did you do this, for your first event? How did you do this for your first gala? Like, because it's funny because we initially planned on doing it in January, like in November we started talking about, October we started talking about, November we started talking, it started to escalate, and then we're like, let's do it in January. And then, like, I talked to a bunch of people, and they're like, listen, man, you want to throw like a black tie gala, um you can't do that in 3 months. Like,
Yeah.
what I mean? They're like, you're gonna need to give it a little space. Uh,
Hmm.
and like, fine, because I'd rather put the work in. I'd rather build it up to be an amazing event
Yeah.
and do it next year in September rather than rush it, botch certain things,
Hmm.
have the players that I want there.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, I don't, like, I want these OBGYNs to be there. I
Yeah.
want them to let their clients know about it. I want them to invite them. I want to raise X amount of money.
Hmm.
Um, and if it means putting it off and throwing this 4 series event series that I'm doing, the first one's gonna be January 25th here in Greenwich.
Hmm.
If that's what the necessary pieces to build a beautiful event in September, then let's do it.
Hmm.
Um, because the one piece of advice someone gave me in the fundraising space was like, people need to know where they're what they're giving money to and who's going to benefit from it. Those are the two main components: who they're giving money to and who's going to benefit. And when you when you talk to someone in a family oriented community, and you're like, listen, like, this foundation is going to put babies in homes,
Hmm.
and like, who's going to say no to that?
Yeah.
you know who doesn't, and so many people are going to identify with that, where it's like, oh, like, I remember when we were having,
Sure.
struggling to have our first child. um
Hmm.
and just giving that gift to another couple, I mean, that value, like, you can't even, nothing touches it, man. And for me, it resonates very well because, like, I later found out after my mom passed away, like, what not being able to bear children did to her mentally.
Hmm.
um and the space that it put her in. And granted, I was a beneficiary of that. um
Hmm.
and but like, I do, my mom, like, when I get reflective on her, like, she was different. There was always that, like, pain, and I think it came from that inability to bear children, which was so culturally required of you
Hmm.
from the Persian culture, Persian Jewish culture, and especially in the Indian culture. Like, bearing a child was that the duty of a woman in the
Hmm.
country cultures. And um it definitely changed her from what my her sisters and like, like, other families told me about how she was and how she was after. I mean, and that, women go through that every day.
Hmm.
And that's, like, that's tremendous to be able to, like, provide them with a solution.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super important. I have like multiple friends that I know who, one of my best friends had to go through IVF for his two daughters that he has. And I know it was like $20,000. You think about, like, lucky he was able to afford it. But yeah, it's crazy that if someone just didn't have $20,000 and they don't have like the ability to have like a child, like someone else who can just pay that. So yeah, it's important work. When did you start your company?
I started in the fall, man. I started in the fall. So,
Like this, like within the
yeah,
past couple months.
yeah,
Nice. Is it ARV Enterprises is your company then?
that is my company. Yeah.
Sweet.
Enterprises. It's with that component. That's why the public speaking was a tremendous piece of that, because when I throw these events, I'm gonna have a 5 to 10 minute window where I'm gonna have the ears of donors and of people affected by the causes that I'm rallying for.
Yeah.
And in that 5 to 10 minutes, public speaking is going to be tremendous in honing in on my message
Hmm.
and being able to um, earn the trust and the love of the people who are willing to contribute to the given cause.
Yeah.
Then the last component is going to be a podcast, and that podcast, um, I'm going to feature people who either work in in this case with in vitro, like those OBGYNs. I'm going to feature them and
Hmm.
to hear what they do on a daily basis to bring love to families. I'm going to hear about I'm going to host families who are struggling,
Yeah.
and hopefully you know I'll be able to host people who directly benefited from the money raised to provide them with the IVF grants.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a three part business, where like the main part is the fundraising leg, but the public speaking has a tremendous role in conveying the message in an open forum. And the podcast, it gives everybody involved a voice in the entire process.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's awesome. I'm excited for you to see where it goes. It, and it's cool. Like I just saw, do you know who Jelly Roll is? He's like a country artist.
I've heard of them.
He's
I don't know.
like a bigger dude. He's got like face tats and stuff. Apparently, he just won like best new artist or country or whatever, and he's
Okay.
39 years old. And people were like, it's really inspiring. Like he could start now and like come on the scene and have this impact. And
It's like fairly new to the country scene.
I think so. I think he just won like best new. I mean, yeah, I'll have to look into it, make sure that's the case, and I'll send it to you. But I think that's like why they were posting him, and people in the comments were like, "You're." It's like it's never too late to like start, and I
Yeah.
think that's another thing that people don't tell us is like we can start anything at whatever time. So I'm excited to see where your initiative goes because now you're starting now, and then 5 years from now, I look back and be like, wow, look at all this stuff that has occurred in 10 years. And yeah, it's gonna be great.
I'm bummed.
Yeah, sweet. Well, I want to be conscious of the time. I know that we're like right an hour here, so I'll let you go.
Okay.
Uh, but we'll definitely keep in touch too. Maybe I'll see you at some speaker schools in the future.
Yeah, no, of course, man. And like I'll definitely send you the information. I mean, you're only in Philly. And
Yeah,
I'm in Philly a lot. So I know you're a shaker and a mover,
sure.
but you know what I mean? Like I'll, maybe we can connect one time in Philly. Watch the Sixers lose.
Yeah, yeah, they'll be rolling. But yeah, no, that sounds great, and good luck with the events and everything. I'll be excited to follow along. I follow everyone I meet on Instagram, so I'll be following everything there. But the last thing I have is just how I have a picture with everyone for my project.
Yeah,
So the way that I do that is once we hop off the call, after we hang up, if you can just snap like a vertical selfie of yourself on your phone and then just DM it to me in the next couple of minutes. I'll take
that's
my
fine.
own photo here and then I'll just put us next to each other so we both post together.
Yeah, that's fine. The other thing I was gonna ask you is, what do you do with the recording? Can you send it to me?
Yeah, for sure. I'll send you a link like once it downloads,
Yeah,
I'll
no.
like, put it into WeTransfer. It'll give me a link. I'll shoot it over to you on Instagram.
Okay. I
Yeah.
appreciate the whole thing. Yeah, the whole clip.
Yeah. The
All
whole
right.
like that whole hour long thing. Yeah, do whatever you want with it.
All right. I might like create some like reels out of it and whatnot.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, it's your story, your content. So do whatever you want with it.
Dude, I appreciate you. And let's yeah, I really look forward to keeping in touch with you.
Yeah. Likewise, man. Have an awesome rest of your day and enjoy your weekend.
I appreciate it.
And don't forget to send me your photo. People always forget.
No, no, I won't. I won't. I won't.
All
No worries.
right. See you.
Later,
Bye.
bro.